Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Scary Stories by the Campfire. We are your hosts this evening, Jason,
Jeremy?
and we are here with a special guest this evening. Yeah. he just waves on in there. Go ahead. Go,
Hello.
go, go ahead and introduce yourself.
What's up, guys? I'm Sam. Been friends with Jeremy for a while.
Oh, yeah. So Sam chose Evil Dead with the mighty chin of Bruce Campbell. And if you're watching the stream live, you can see it in the background. That mighty chin.
The
Yes,
chin of
just
all chin.
just want to let everyone know we are running a few minutes behind this evening. Work-related issues. It's all my fault. I promise. Don't blame anyone else. But yes, we are discussing. My headphone sounds really weird out there. We are discussing the Evil Dead this evening. Very classic film. Um, we ended up watching it on Monday. If you guys did not join us, well, actually, you couldn't have joined us. We didn't stream it. So,
No, we watched it
but
at at the house. Actually, this
yep,
time around.
yeah, we all got together and actually was able to watch it at the house. But we're talking about a film movie. We're talking about a movie that actually spawned several sequels and it's still going strong today. So, Jeremy, take it away.
I was gonna say, Sam, why did you pick the Evil Dead? What
To
about
be
this
honest,
movie drew you to it?
it was when I was in high school. It was one of my favorite films because it's so campy and so like the horror's there. It's got a little bit of comedy in it that you don't really realize is comedy, but it was always very entertaining to me. And then you had Evil Dead 2 and Ash vs. Evil Dead, and now the series is just so much fun.
And then you got your two new movies that came out in the last couple of
Oh
years.
yeah,
You got Evil Dead was kind of the
it's like a reboot of
See,
the series.
the director actually said that movie could be whatever y'all wanted it to be. If you wanted it to be a reboot, it was a reboot. If you wanted it to be a sequel, it was a sequel. He was like, it'll be whatever y'all want it to be.
and I actually did read an article they were talking about they were talking about these three different types of movies. You had the ones with Ash Williams, you had um, Evil Dead, and then you had the new one that just came out, Evil Dead Rise. And apparently, in each one of those movies, the book is entirely different. It's like a
Hmm.
different book. I think they explained in the third movie that there was like three books altogether, and each one of these is found in a different location and whatnot. And so the article was talking about how they've actually set it up where they could bring like all three together in one particular movie and have like kind of a big throwdown because now you got three on the stand.
That would be
Um,
sick.
but we
Now
would
what's
just have to wait and see. I know. Don't quote me on this, but I think they did an article with or an interview with Bruce Campbell, and this was before the new one just came out. Evil Dead
Mhm.
Rise came out, and he said that they were working on some stuff. Um, Sam Raimi and Ted Raimi were working on some stuff, and they said if Evil Dead Rise did really well at the box office and got like good reviews and whatnot, instead of doing like an Evil Dead movie or something like every 8 or 9 years, what they were doing, they would do them like almost every 3 years, and they would get more hands involved and make this more into a bigger thing.
I
Uh
don't know
oh.
how I feel about that.
Well, I mean, from what I was understanding from the article is that they were writing, I guess Sam and Ted were writing, I guess you would call it a Bible. I think is what they usually the term that they would use. It's like these are like specific rules. So, and now Bruce, Sam, and I'm pretty sure Ted. They're all producers. They all got their hands in these movies. So it's not like they're making Evil Dead or yeah, Evil Dead and Evil Dead Rise without any sort of consent. They've got their hands in it. So they just wouldn't probably be like directing or writing or anything like that. But this book that they're writing would have like all the rules established. Like this is how this goes. This is how this goes. Just kind of follow the guidelines and it'll work out. Type of thing. So that way you're not getting some sort of really bad continuity like they do in the early movies. First there's 5 people. Now there's just 1 person. But maybe there were 5. We're not entirely sure. It just depends on the movie.
So, with that though, let's dive into this real quick. And I really want to talk about Ash himself because I said it before, and I'll say it again. He's kind of a wimp.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Oh yeah.
Comparatively to like his later movies.
I don't know what the idea was behind this movie. I don't know if they had the plan to go ahead and make all these different movies, or if they were just kind of doing one and seeing what was going to happen. This is an early iteration of Ash, so if any, it's interesting because the Ash that I know really well is the one from the TV series Ash versus Evil Dead, and it's kind of the one you see all over the place nowadays. That's like the older Ash. He's in I know they brought him into like Dead by Daylight, and it wasn't even like younger or not even like Evil Dead 2 Ash. It's like Ash versus Evil Dead Ash. It's like the old one. So always seeing him in this movie and seeing him so young and whatnot, it's just it almost throws you through a loop because he's not the same guy. It seems like, especially in personality.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. How do you feel, Sam, about this Ash?
Yeah, when I was watching it, I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, after watching the later films and the series, and then watching the first movie, I mean, you could definitely tell he was almost a different person. Um, Especially like when it comes to killing the Deadites as we became to know them, he was like, "Nah, I don't want to do that." But eventually, he kind of manned up. But I think it kind of shows that he definitely had a lot of trauma from that first film, and maybe it carried over into that swagger and pretend confidence that he has in the later films.
I don't know. I think he'd be afraid of bookshelves by the end of this first movie. I think he had like 2 or 3 dropped on him.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. He kept getting tangled up in the bookshelves. This is so funny. And just, because of the nature of it and kind of how amateur-esque the entire thing was, I guess that's what really gave it its campiness and what made it like really fun. Checking something out here real quick. There it is. But yeah, it seems like everything that we know of Ash Williams, the quotes and the attitude and stuff, always comes back either from you start seeing that a little bit in like I think Evil Dead 2, but I think it really hits a peak in like Army of Darkness.
Yep.
Which that movie's just insane anyway.
That's a bowl full of insane. It's just
Actually, I do
Hey, Clayton. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Actually, my favorite Evil Dead movie is definitely the second one.
oh yeah. I could agree with that. It's a solid movie.
I think for me it's the way they kind of the way that I think about it is that the first one is pure horror. At least it's meant to be pure horror. With its amateur campiness to it, it does make it a fun movie, not necessarily like the funniest movie, but when it comes into the second one, there's that horror element, but there's actual purposeful comedy inserted into it into like the right amount, so it makes it almost kind of like a dark comedy. And then when you get to like Army of Darkness, there's like almost no horror to it. The horror's kind of gone away at this point. I mean, there is horror elements to it, but nothing's like entirely like frightening to you, and it's full of one-liners and quips and stuff like that. So, but I actually have not seen the new ones yet, so it's gonna be fun when we get to those.
One thing about this movie I noticed, and you don't really get much time to connect with the four characters before everything
Yeah.
just starts popping off.
Yeah, they start killing them off real quick.
And I don't know if it was like, I know they were constricted on budgets and stuff because it was all them doing everything, but it's also a short movie that I've
I don't know,
noticed.
I think Sam Raimi was doing it just to make. He was making a movie, and he didn't really care. I'm looking at it right here. It says that he didn't even care about like controversy. Like, I think it said when this movie originally came out. Oh, in the UK, the film was trimmed by 49 seconds before it was granted an X certificate for cinema release.
I think it was banned in Germany for a while. It didn't release in Germany for a while.
The film was and is still banned either
Oh.
theatrically or on video in some countries.
Fabulous.
So they don't know what they're missing. I'm trying to see if there's like, I don't want to have to go to like an actual website to look at and see where they're banned at. It's not going to give me exactly where they're banned at, but yeah. So when this movie came out, it was definitely something that was a little bit extreme for people at that point. When did it come out? It came out in like what, 80?
It was
No.
in 86.
81.
Oh, 81. 86 was part 2.
Yeah. So,
The original script called for all the characters to be smoking marijuana when they were first listening to the tape. The actors decided to try it for real, and the entire scene had to later be reshot due to the uncontrollable behavior.
wow.
Everyone got super high and just could not be doing
Which
anything.
actually, it's kind of funny that you mentioned that. So they wanted to shoot them smoking and listening to the tape, right? That's what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's funny to say that because they changed it up or whatever, but we're gonna cover a couple things throughout this whole series of Evil Dead that we're doing. We're gonna talk about the show, even though we're not watching the show or anything like that. But that is how he gets that stuff started in the show.
It is. He gets high with that girl, and he's like, I got
And they
some
read-
sick poetry.
And
he reads from
the
it.
book.
It's so
Oh.
funny.
Yeah, he is that guy who, for the most part, will get everything into trouble.
But he gets him out of trouble, too.
I
Except
don't
in
know.
Trouble he created.
this
Yeah.
movie.
It would be really easy just to skip the whole process if he didn't start it in the first place. Yeah, I think that's the big thing that I like about Ash as a hero, is that he's not like your typical hero who just goes in, saves the day, and there is a lot of like luck and mishap that comes through everything that he does. Sometimes when he's like, "Hey, I got this plan," you just kind of go, "Do you? Do you?" Because the
Should you
plan could have
really?
the plan could have just, we don't have to have a plan if you didn't do this to begin with. This is all your fault anyway.
Yeah, though, like, Jesus, all of it could have been avoided.
Mhm.
Everything. This whole movie could have been avoided if they just turned the tape off.
Or just
Sooner.
left that nasty looking book in the basement.
I mean, they
or
could have just threw the book in the fire like he did at the end of the movie, anyways. Fire was going the whole time. Just throw it in there.
Yeah. You know, we were. I was making jokes about it during when we were there um, Monday, but it was the necklace that he got his girlfriend. I was like, ooh, it's just a magnifying glass. Like, I don't see the importance of it, and it's never brought up. But
They never really go into any depth on that at all. It's just a necklace.
he did use it to get the book. So
He did.
while he was getting his
Plot twist.
ankle bit by Scotty.
God. It's really funny because I was they got that Evil Dead game, and one of the characters in it is a Scotty, whatever you want to call him, and I usually play as him. I've been playing him for as a little while, and we ended up watching the movie on Monday. I'm like, hey, look, there's Scott. Well, he's kind of a jerk.
Well, he's a major jerk in that movie.
Oh yeah.
Like, he's just an a-hole. He's like, screw them, we're leaving. Bump
Yeah,
that noise.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. He just kind of dismissed everything everyone said. Oh my God, the woods are out there. Yeah. Who cares?
Of course, there's woods. It's the woods.
Yeah, he pointed that gun at Ash's face when they were in the
Oh my
basement. He had the gun. He just kind of like, hey, this thing loading. Kind of points. I'm like, dude, safety hazard. Oh,
Oh, man. But then you have the Hills Have Eyes cameo in the back for Wes Craven.
Yeah.
But what's great about it is we talked about it in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. There's an Evil Dead poster in one of the bedrooms.
Well, Nancy was watching The Evil Dead.
That too.
Yeah.
well, I think
And Craven put that in his movie as a reference to Raimi put in the Hills Have Eyes in his movie.
And I think there was a Jaws poster in something. What was it?
I think it's might be the next movie, unless I missed it in this one. But I think it's in the next movie. In the shed, right above the door, is Freddy Krueger's claws.
Oh yeah, the glove. It's in the second one.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. That machete on the wall is Jason's. I don't care what anyone says. It's just
Yeah, it's gotta be.
those chains, Hellraiser.
All the references.
All the references are there.
You're the,
Except Chucky. There's no Chucky.
The movie's original name was supposed to be Book of the Dead, but one of Raimi's producer friends was like, "Yeah, that's stupid. Nobody's gonna go watch that." So he changed it to Evil Dead.
What's funny is the first one's actually just called The Evil Dead. It has "the" at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then it changes
Yeah,
to Evil Dead 2.
Yeah, I was.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, They got. I didn't even realize it that this one was called The Evil Dead. I always just called it Evil Dead.
Mhm.
But apparently the second one is Evil Dead 2, and it's got that subtitle Dead by Dawn, which I completely forgot about. But the remake slash side sequel or whatever you want to call it is actually called Evil Dead. So I guess that's the difference. The Evil Dead, Evil
Mhm.
Dead. So
So, one of my favorite things about this movie is the practical effects. All of the body makeup, all of the special effects that that went into this that weren't CGI. Like, to me, it was great. For the budget that they had, I think they did phenomenally well with what they had. And with them all taking their own stunts. Like, Campbell getting thrown into a bookshelf.
well, I mean, their budget was only like $375,000.
Yeah, and I remember Bruce Campbell during when we saw it on theater, they had that big interview with him when they re-showed it. He actually put his parents' house up as collateral for the loan. So
That's why it was put on as executive producer.
yeah, because they had to blow the film up so it could be shown in theaters, and that cost more than anything. It was crazy. Oh man. So, what are y'all's favorite? What's y'all's favorite thing about this movie? Out of everything in it.
I think it's probably all of the over the top gore and stuff, like you were saying, the effects and everything. It's pretty good for what it is, and I like the extra that they did as far as like the blue blood coming out of the Deadite's face and everything like that. I think it was kind of cool to add those little touches to it, just to make it a little different than everything else that you see.
Yeah, I can see that. It was definitely different for its time. You know, you have all these movies coming out around the same time, and none of them were going to this extreme when it comes to gore and blood. Like, I personally really like the blood going over the camera.
Yeah, that was a nice touch.
Jason, what about you?
I liked how simple it was. I mean, if you look at the film and you're looking at like movies nowadays, there's like locations. It's always changing locations. They managed to make this one cabin a scary cabin. And you didn't get to really see anything outside. And it's around the cabin. I think the only other place that you got to see was like when they were driving, they were trying to get out, and they get to the bridge, and the bridge was destroyed. That was like that saying, "This is where you're going to be at, and you're stuck here." And it still makes everything interesting. I mean, I don't know if it was just the way the cabin was. I don't know if they did any sort of work to make it look like the way it was, or if they just showed up on set, was like, "Yep, that'll work." But when they went inside, looking at the exterior of the cabin, you're like, okay, it's kind of eh. When you walk inside, the only thing I can think of is that must be a kind of musty smelling, just mildewy kind of smelling place. It didn't look clean. It just looked gross. It's like you walk in there, you're like, I'm not staying here. There's no way I'm sleeping in the car. I'm not sleeping in here. And it's kind of funny because we were watching it, and Raven would be like, she would be like, would they just close the windows?
Then a tree comes through it.
Everywhere they went, they had windows open. Even when they were starting to get possessed, they're just like looking out windows, like, huh. Like, what was it? Was it Scott's girlfriend or whatever? She screams. You hear the window break. She screams. Scott walks in there, and you got the window all shattered open, glass all over the place. He walks over to the window, and he just kind of looks out like, huh? It's like, dude, you have Ash's sister in the basement, and now your girlfriend's disappeared, and you just look like you don't care.
I referenced it to
I'll get a new one.
Scotty. I referenced Scotty to being Fred from Scooby-Doo.
That's a good comparison.
Like, he was the Fred Jones of the group. Ash was Shaggy of the group.
But then, like I said, just the environment itself was haunting enough, and the way they kept the whole thing interesting. But we're gonna see some better camera work and some more portions of the cabin in the next one. But like I said, you didn't really get to see the outside. Whenever the camera wandered into the woods, it was either from a Deadite perspective, or it was something bad happening to the person we were following.
Mhm.
I think the only person we didn't get to see wander into the woods was Scott. He wandered out there because he's like, there's a path. I think I can walk it or whatever. And I think he disappears for a few. And then when he comes back, he's all beat up and scratched and torn and whatever. And then he just goes in there and dies on the couch. Probably not the best place to die. Gross. Now you got the smell of dead people and mildew. But the cellar was actually relatively interesting, also. You know, for a place like that, didn't they have to dig that?
I'm
Jeremy,
not
didn't they?
sure.
I think they not the not the actual underground, like the scenes where they're in the cellar, but I think they said when they were shooting the scene where they open up the cellar lid and there's like the stairs going down, they actually had to like dig a hole and put those stairs in to get that shot. I think is what they said. I can see if I can find something on that. But I think when we were at the okay, when we were at watching the movie, we we're talking about how the possessions work because I think they change per movie because I think what was it you Jeremy? Where like the way they were just possessing everybody, weren't didn't
Yeah,
were you asked
so
like why didn't you just possess Ash?
it was funny because they attacked him in the bush, or she got attacked in the trees, and then she's possessed. Then like it just started possessing everybody, but Ash was just kind of like, "Hey, I'm not possessed. I'm not possessed." But like,
Um,
how does it choose who to possess?
well, I guess
You know,
there's
I was always wondering the same thing too. Um, but I mean, from everything that I've seen, it's just coming into contact with a demon allows you to get possessed. That's the only thing that I've ever been able to find. And I don't feel
well,
like that's a very good answer.
I don't
well
think so either.
the deadites spirits or whatever can actually possess living and dead.
Mhm.
I guess there's multiple ways that they can do it. They can do it through like a wounded target, which I guess according to this page I'm reading on this wiki page, it's like a slow evil infection can occur in a potential host subject that has been recently injured in an area in which a great deal of supernatural activity is occurring. Um, so I guess if you're in a haunted place, it can slowly start to possess you. Um, touch of evil. One of the more infamous methods of possession comes from a physical violation of a potential host body from a living object. Which I guess Cheryl and Mia from the new movie Evil Dead were subjected to this violation and infection through trees. Then you got your typical bite and scratch. Those usually take effect pretty quick.
But you see, Ash was bit, and he didn't become a deadite. His
It
hand
may,
does later in the second one.
I mean, I guess it depends on how quick. I don't think that you just get scratched and you just automatically get possessed. I think if they bite you or they scratch you, it makes it easier for them to.
So
But
confusing. Demon lore is so confusing. I thought it was bad in The Exorcist. Jesus Christ.
that probably won't get rid of them, Jeremy.
Just get Pazuzu in here and call it a day.
I'm trying to.
Pazuzu! Hey, do you think Father
how-
Marin could like exorcise these deadites?
I mean, there might be a way.
There's that shaman in the series that can exercise them, so I don't see why not.
That is true. Because I remember in the TV series they brought the weird demon in. The little
okay,
chattery one.
okay, I got you one, Jeremy. So, Deadeye spirit expulsion methods.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so sunlight.
They're vampires?
No, well, it says it's conflicting information because I guess it depends on universe to universe because you got this one, you got
I was
I
about to
think
say
he
in Ash versus Evil Dead, they're running around in the daylight.
yeah, it might make him weaker, might not make him just jump out of the body. But I know they talk about like what is it? There's a Marvel comic series. I think it was called Marvel Zombies.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think Ash Williams was actually loaned out to them for a while, so that he got
was,
to, so
was
he
fabulous.
yeah. So they like to say universe per universe or whatever, like, and it just kind of gets more confusing. But the power of love, emotional connection, because in part 2 he does get possessed, but
Mm-hmm.
then I guess he's got that magnifying necklace, and I guess he remembers his girlfriend, and it kind of pushes the possession out. So I guess they're not as tough as, your other demons that like to possess stuff, where it takes like a whole clergy of is clergy? Yeah, just a whole group of priests throwing holy water and stuff.
A gaggle of priests.
Gaggle of priests. Just like, no, look at this. I remember my girlfriend, and then the demon's like, "Well, that's my cue. I'm out." Like, love, yeah. But you do actually get to, in this movie, you do get to see the first time they get to use the go back to normal trick. That becomes like the big staple throughout, where they go back into like the normal self. I'm assuming they got like access to like memories and stuff, I think.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So they just like, "Oh no, I'm better now," and you're like, "Oh, okay," and then you're stabbed in the ankle with a pencil, which was really gross, by the way.
Also, how did they not notice her picking up that pencil? There's so many people in that room, and she's
No,
not really hiding it.
well, we were actually talking about the one scene where what was it? Ash was sitting on the couch. He had the necklace in like the little ring box or whatever,
Oh, yeah.
and his girlfriend came over, and he was acting like he was asleep. And she came over and she was looking at the box, and she kind of looked at him, and his eyes were closed. And she looked back at the box, and he like opened his eyes and was like looking at her.
It was
And then
so
she's like
funny.
staring at the box, and then then she glances over, and he closes his eyes. We're like, does your peripheral vision not working? And you're almost looking at him. How do you not notice his eyes were open? This is a close up. She was like the ring's like right here. She's like, mm-hmm. Oh, is he looking? No. Okay. Which actually was kind of interesting, because they actually did that same thing when he took her outside to put her in the ground. Um, he was digging. I think he was digging the grave, and she would like open up her eyes, and he'd stop, and he'd kind of like look over, and she'd have her eyes closed. It's kind of a funny role reversal.
Oh, yeah.
So,
But it led to my favorite scene, where he just beats her repeatedly with a big old freaking 4x4.
that fake looking styrofoam 2x4 or
And it
whatever.
broke. I wonder if it actually meant to break, or if it just kind of happened and they just kept it in there.
It was just funny because he's hitting her and she's like, ah! She's like one of those clowns you see at like a carnival that you hit and it just like spins. It's like that, Jason. It's like in TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze, where they're in the toy shop and he finds the clown. He's just like, hey. He's just bobbing back and forth.
There was another movie. I can't remember what it was. I'm trying to think of what the movie it was, but it was almost kind of the same prop. It was like, except it was supposed to look like one of those iron I-beams, but I think it was made out of the same stuff. It was like some sort of styrofoam. It was just very poor looking. And someone was wielding it like that. They're just holding it with like two hands. Like, doof, doof. It's like ridiculous. But that's what makes it fun. Especially the thump noise. Thump.
Thump. Ah! Thump. Ah! I think that was the one thing, though. Like, I get what they were doing, Um, like I think the one thing that I did not like was all the high pitched laughing.
Mm.
It started to wear after a while.
So what's supposed to happen, Jeremy?
It's supposed to wear
What's
on me.
It's supposed to wear on you.
Tormenting.
It drives a man insane. It was kind of funny. I turned my head from the movie for a moment. I think this was as soon as Scott got back or whatever, and I think he may have died on the couch at this point or whatever. But you had him on the couch, which I completely forgot that he died. Cheryl was in the basement still, and Asher's girlfriend was doing that little baby doll thing that she was doing, a little high pitched, and like I said, I turned my attention away from the movie for a moment when that was going on, and when I turned back, Ash goes, "Why are you doing this to me?" And I completely forgotten what was going on at the point. And I went, "Bro, you know you're not the only one there, right?" And then like when it panned out, I was like, "Oh wait, yeah, that's right. Dead, possessed. Yeah, it's just you, man. That's why."
Oh man, this movie. I do know that
is the best.
it's great. I know they didn't want to do the tree scene in the forest, the whole rapey scene. I know that was one of Sam Raimi's like complaints. Like that's going back and looking. He's actually said like if he could take a scene out of this movie, it was that one.
Yeah, I think he did it more for the shock value of it. It wasn't like
No, he did. Definitely did.
Oh yeah.
Because I know it said that like when he was making this movie. See, the film's release was met with controversy as Raimi had made the film as gruesome as possible with neither interest in nor fear of censorship.
That's what I'm talking about right there. Screw the MPAA.
Yeah, until you get banned everywhere and you don't get your money.
Screw the MPAA.
That's part of the reason why he changed up the blood too. Changed some of it from red to blue and then added like dark colors and stuff to it was to try and get past the censorship.
It's funny because we've talked about what we talked about the Friday the 13th series and how many problems that series went through when it comes to the MPAA and censorship. Like, if you look back at those movies, they were beaten with a hacksaw of censorship because of the MPAA. And it was good to see a movie that basically said, screw that, we're going to do it. We don't care what the MPAA says. This is our movie. That's what we're going to do. So it was good to see.
Yeah, but, they still had to cut stuff out.
Yeah, but look
like
what it leads. Look what it leads to. Like if you watch Ash vs. Evil Dead, like so much blood and gore.
Nowadays, I'm pretty sure we're a bit more lenient on because in 81 we didn't have.
No, we had PG and R in 81.
Yeah, we didn't have the PG-13 rating.
Red Dawn wasn't out yet.
Yeah.
Which, fun fact, if anybody didn't know that, Red Dawn was the first ever PG-13 rated movie.
Yeah, but that was because of
Jaws
and Temple of Doom.
Yep, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because there was so much in it that it didn't warrant the R rating, but they needed something that was higher than PG because both those movies were bad enough to be past the PG, but not so bad it should be R. Now, both of them still got the PG rating.
Oh, wow. This this Indiana Jones movie is a PG. It'd be really great. Bring the kids. Oh my God, that guy got his heart ripped out. Yep.
Oh look
Kids
at
got to experience that.
oh look a shark movie. Oh, it's fine. It's PG. We're gonna go watch the shark. Oh God, he just ate that dude. Like he's stabbing it in the face with a machete and he's eating him.
Yeah.
Well.
So, this movie didn't even get near a PG-13.
Oh no.
I'm
It
pretty
would
sure
be
wasn't
probably by
because of-
today's standards.
Nah, this is still definitely kind of an R-rated film, I think.
Yeah, even with the cinematics that it has, I think it's still got an R rating.
Yeah, I just think like nowadays.
There's like 2 boobs in there. So.
Boom.
Yeah, I think yeah, I think by today's standards it wouldn't be as bad. I mean, from what I understand, the newer movies are much more intense than these. So, and I think they have a higher blood count anyway. So, and so I guess the movies can get worse. Well, worse is not the word I should use. Be higher in content that was controversial at the time, and not have its not be batted at. I don't know. I'm running out of words.
Who do y'all think was the best Deadite? Who is your favorite and your least favorite Deadite? I mean, there's only 4.
I think Cheryl was my favorite.
I think
I'm trying to remember. Cheryl was the first one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
she's in the one. She's the one who got they locked in the basement
Yeah.
or the
Right.
cellar. I mean, I guess it would have to be Cheryl or Ash's girlfriend. And the only reason I say her because in this one she doesn't do a whole lot, I don't think. And then I know she does like the baby doll face thing. She got like the makeup all over, and she's doing the high cackling and stuff. And he knocks her head off in the woods or whatever. But in the second movie, and really, if I'm thinking correctly, she's the only one they actually really ever talk about. Because I know they did this movie, and then when they did the second one, I think it was because for some reason they lost the Evil Dead title. Like they had no rights to it because it was like a different studio or something. So they had to reshoot. That's why like the first 15-20 minutes of the second movie is like that rehashing of the first movie, because they had to reshoot everything. And that's why it's just those two. It's just Ash and his girlfriend at the time. But like that's what I was talking about with the continuity, whether it was like 5 people or 2 people or who's it's and whatnots it's. But I think overall the first movie still stands as that there was Ash, his girlfriend, Scott and his girlfriend, and Ash's sister. They were all in the cabin. But still, what is Ash's girlfriend? It's so embarrassing. Linda. I thought it was Linda, but I keep, for some reason, Cheryl was the one they kept talking about, but Linda was
Shelly was the other one.
No one cares about Shelly.
Believe it or not, she was actually tied with Cheryl to be my favorite because she's the one who stabbed him with the pencil. I think. No, that was Cheryl.
That was Cheryl.
Cheryl did all the cool stuff. She was the one who's floating in the air going, way.
Yeah. Shelly didn't do anything. She had that cool death scene where she was all chopped to pieces and she was like all the body parts were like wiggling around. But
Oh yeah, that was cool.
that was about all she got.
And that was Scotty like, I don't care if you're my girlfriend or not. She's dead. Hiya!
Yeah.
Hiya!
No hesitation. No hesitation.
Ash is like, I don't know if I can hurt these people. They're my friends. Scott's like, yeah, she's dead already. Chop them away.
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
This is what you get for not liking dinner the other day. Ha! This is what you get for taking me shopping. Hiya!
Yeah, I would give it to I'd probably give it to Cheryl because every time anyone thinks of Deadites, especially from these movies, it's always the one in the cellar. I think in the second one that's what, Henrietta. That's the grandma or whatever they locked down there. But Cheryl was the one that was in this one, so I'm gonna give it to Cheryl.
Yeah, I can definitely see Cheryl being it. It definitely. It's like they picked a few characters and those were the main ones, and we're like, okay, we're gonna do everything with y'all. The rest of y'all, hey, you're just kind of here. We just need more bodies. We gotta push the envelope a little bit. But so, when they made this movie, do y'all think they? I know they probably had the intentions of making the second one, but do y'all think they knew that it would get as big as it is here and now? A video game, a TV series, 2 new movies, and just a following that sells out movie theaters when they show this movie.
A crossover with Marvel and Jason versus Freddy. That was an actual thing.
Yep, I remember that.
They had I think we may have talked about it during our Freddy versus Jason
We did.
episode, but they actually had a comic series. It was called Freddy versus Jason versus Ash. And that was the original comic that was written was actually supposed to be the script for a sequel to Freddy versus Jason. They were actually supposed to bring in Ash Williams to face off against these two. And it didn't happen. So they did the comic instead, which was really good. And then I think they did like a sequel to the comic, which they kind of bombed because I think they tried too hard. But I mean, a franchise like this, you're not going to sit here watch. I mean, that's mind blowing to sit there and watch The Evil Dead, seeing where it started and going, oh, I can really see this bumping elbows with Freddy and Jason, Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. So that's, I guess you just never know what's going to happen until it actually happens.
Yeah. I don't know. When it comes to crossovers, I'm very hit or miss. Like, some work, some don't.
I guess it really depends on what your likings are. But
so, it is time, Jason. It's game time.
No, it's time for the
So, Sam, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but towards the end of every episode, we play a little game. We're guessing 3 different ratings. We guess the IMDb rating of how many on a scale of 1 to 10. And we do the Rotten Tomatoes for the tomato meter and audience score. And we play Price is Right rules. So you have to be under, not over. Even if you're 1 number over, and we've had that happen.
Mm-hmm.
You're 1 number over. And I think, if I recall correctly, PJ is actually winning, is the queen right now. But before we get to that, Raven actually had a question. What is your favorite thing about Ash in this movie, and what did you dislike about him? We'll start with Sam.
Ooh.
Well, I'll start with what I disliked about him. And we've already kind of covered it, was how wimpy he was. He was so, I don't know, reserved, I guess would be the best word. But I think what I liked best about him was he actually seemed like a decent guy. Like he cared about his girlfriend, he cared about his friends, even Scott, who was kind of a douche. Um, he was a decent guy, and it just kind of went from there.
uh, I'd have to. I think I second both of those points. In this movie, he is a decent guy because have you ever noticed that? Yeah, he becomes more of this badass as the movies and the TV shows go on, but he also becomes more of like
A jerk.
a jerk at the same time.
Does get kind of jerky later on.
Like he does like this weird de-escalation, especially in the TV series.
I think that's the how the cool factor. Like he's been through this, quite a few times. So he's like, yeah, I got this. Is follow my lead and just watch yourself and
But it's not just that. Like in this one, he's sweet to his girl. He bought her a gift. He does all this. But when you watch him in like the TV series, he like hits on everybody, says these quirky one-liners all the time.
that
And you're just kind of like, you're a douche.
well, there's
You're funny, but you're a douche.
I was actually looking at something because they have like they were talking about the soundtrack to Ash versus the Evil Dead, like a lot of the music that Ash listens to. And Raimi had, I'm pretty sure it was Raimi had stated that the reason they were using songs like band names are going through my head right now. Why they picked certain bands and whatnot was because Ash was in the mindset that he wasn't growing up, right? He just like he's an older guy, but he still thinks he's a, like young teenager kind of guy. That's why he's always partying and hitting on everything because he's a big man child.
Yeah, he wants to get to Jacksonville. I don't know why, but he wants to go to Jacksonville.
Jacksonville. The thing that I liked about Ash in this movie, and what did I not? I did not like the idea of no one-liners. That's sad. Like anyone who like sees like the show now, like the TV show, and even like Army of Darkness, he's full of like one-liners and zingers. There's none of that in this movie. What I did like about it is no, I do like the idea that he was a really nice guy. I'm gonna go with I don't want to use your guys' answer.
It's okay, Jason. You can agree
No,
with us.
well, no, he was kind of wimpy and reserved, but I think he was at least kind of in the beginning. He was more level-headed. Oops, did I turn my volume down?
No, I hear you.
Okay. No, well, I just couldn't hear it in my ears. I want to say he was a bit more level-headed a little bit. Like he didn't want to, just unlike Scott, who just wanted to butcher his girlfriend because she was quote unquote dead. But he was. I know he didn't have the heart to go killing because when he had to get rid of Linda, he actually took her to the woodshed and like had that whole strapped down montage, just whoosh, whoosh, hooking up chains and stuff to her, and then he pulls out the chainsaw and he's like, yeah, and then yeah, I can't do this. I'm just gonna go out and bury her in the yard. But he did have the gun, the single barreled shotgun there, And even when he ran out of ammo, he knew he had to go into the basement and get some more. So he went down there and, he was cautious about things. It wasn't like, he just panicked and, I think at least in this movie, he was much more level headed. I think when we get later on, like you were talking, Jeremy, he does become kind of this quirky, kind of cool character. But I think on the other side, he's not as level headed. He jumps into a situation without actually thinking about said situation. And then he has to struggle to get his way back out of said situation. I think in this one, it was easier for them um, to accidentally summon these demons because they just had like this. First of all, looking at the book, it's a gross book. Just looking at the book made me go, ugh, that's a gross book. Don't touch that book. But, it's not like they're opening it up and it says, do not read. And they're like, let's read it. No, they just open up the book and there's like pictures in there and there's words in there that, are written in a different language. And they pop out the old, what is that thing called? The record player. They put on that. Oh, no, not the record player. They had the one with the tape. Whatever that,
tape deck.
whatever tape deck, yeah. And they put that thing on and they were listening to it. I mean, that's completely harmless in extent. That's curiosity. But like we said before, Ash versus Evil Dead, he goes and gets high and wants to impress a girl. And then he reads from the book. That's not level-headed Ash there, which actually makes him fun. This one's more level-headed and more kind of survivalist, and I think this one's more like Ash surviving, and then the next movie is him like becoming that kind of action hero, and then he evolves into the Ash that we all know and love anyway. So there's different stages, and I don't really find an Ash that I don't like, but I do find this one to be more interesting because he's less utilized, I think, in a lot of properties that they do want to use the Evil Dead in. It's never this Ash. It's always like the later Ashes.
I like that. Well, IMDb on a scale of 1 to 10.
Scale of 1 to 10.
Let's get our votes in on what we think the people voted on. 224,000 people gave this movie a rating on IMDb.
They always mess with my keyboard. There we go.
Sam, what do you think? I got a 7.4 from Jason, 7.6 from PJ.
I think a 7.2.
We are just waiting on Ravenfire, and
give her a moment. Oh, an 8.
I think Jason cheated.
How did I cheat, Jeremy?
I think Jason cheated. I think he already knew.
How did I know?
Because you nailed it right on the money.
Oh.
7.4 out of 10.
If I wanted to cheat, Jeremy, do you think I would just nail it right on the head? You would think I would go at least a couple points lower.
Uh-huh. Sure.
Jason,
Jason,
you're just mad because I won one.
quit letting the Deadites cheat for you, Jason.
Give us the numbers. Give us the numbers.
Well, now we get to go to my favorite, the tomato meter.
Oh, tomatoes.
I love the tomato meter. By the way, I've shocked so many people in this thing with the tomato meter. Like with Slacks, it got like a 96%.
Oh, yeah, Ravenfire. I'm the cheater.
A
I
movie
don't know
about
how-
a killer pair of pants.
I don't know how you and PJ always seem to win anyway. It's always between you two guys winning. Unless, Amber's on then. Okay, so Rotten Tomatoes,
Yep.
critic wise, this is 0 to 100.
Yep. 0 to 100. And audience scores.
No, this is critic score.
Or yeah, critic score. Sorry.
You didn't do the.
Jason says an 86.
Jason's cheating again.
PJ says a 78. Sam, what about you? 84?
Yes.
And last but not least, Ravenfire.
Oh, yeah, I know. You guys are better at numbers. You know, I always think like, oh, this movie is really, really, really good. I'm pretty sure critics like it. This has to be an 87. They're like, no, it's a 45. People hate it.
Always.
Well, Jason, you're over by one.
See?
Sam
Oh, sorry.
won
Oh, see.
because he is one off.
See, I cheated, Jeremy. I just changed the number the wrong way. Oh,
Look at that. Sam coming in here on his first day going, you know what? I got this, guys. Watch this.
Let me dust off this shoulder here real quick.
Some of the critics said Sam Raimi's technique is equal to his perverse imagination. In his first directorial outing, he's already got a flair for the visual grammar of horror movies that John Carpenter might envy.
Oh, impressive.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is to make a movie. That's what you're doing. You're coming in here and you're making a movie. And if you have, for some reason, you're coming in here and you're making a movie and you're like, that's because I want this big epic movie that's people are gonna watch and they're gonna like awards and stuff. I want this masterpiece. I don't think that's what he was doing. I think he was making a movie because he wanted to make a movie and he wanted to make it his way. So there's and especially with like a low budget, you start thinking creatively. Like all those shots where they're like in the woods,
Yeah.
you see like the, that's, I think they said it was like him on a bike. He had like the camera on the handlebars or whatever, and he's just riding the bike through the woods, and you're getting those kind of stuff like that, which became like the staple of what the Deadites look like when they're doing whatever they're doing, floating around.
Raimi has managed all of this with such gusto and excess. It is never sorted in the way that many of the video nasties can be. In fact, it is also over the top. Raimi has probably done for the horror film what the James Bond films did for the spy story.
Made him over the top. And I think that adds to the funness of it. Like Jeremy had said, it's so over the top. Some of it can be so over the top. You're just like it's funny. Maybe to a sick, twisted person, but maybe people who don't watch horror movies are like, oh my god, this is so gross, I'm gonna vomit.
And then you have people like us who are talking about it actively every week.
Yeah, but I mean, like, like the scene when he's in the cellar and you got like the big pipe that's like dripping blood. And he's just like, huh? And then the pipe just kind of, and it just sprays him in the face with like gallons of it, just, and that's kind of funny. It's funny because pipes don't do that. Pipes don't bleed.
And finally, the audience score. On a scale of 1 to 100, PJ says, way to go, Sam, for winning that round. We got one more. Jason says the audience is giving it a 90. PJ says an 87.
Raven says 88.
I'm going to go with 82.
We are all shooting for the stars on this.
And Sam says an 82.
Dun, 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 dun.
The crown tonight is going to our special guest, Sam. Everybody else is over. Sam managed to be under it by 2 points, with the audience score being an 84.
84.
84%.
I'm saving my 90 for part 2.
That's great to see, like, audiences and critics go so high on this, because you don't get that in horror movies. Critics usually hate horror movies.
I think I'm gonna be as probably as honest as I can be on here, but I think it's an after effect, because when the movie came out, I don't think critics were going, "Oh my god, this is an amazing movie." They're like, "This is ugh, this is movie." But as time has progressed, and people are actually looking at it with more of a open mind, and comparable to some of the horror movies nowadays, I mean, horror movies are getting really well written nowadays. And
That's because they're all reboots and sequels and prequels to stuff that's already been written.
No, I mean, to a certain extent, some of it is, yes, but I mean, we're still getting like we're getting some good original stuff out there. I think the last because I know we actually, me and Raven just actually watched what was it? Not the last Scream movie that just came out, but the one before it, Scream 5? Was it Scream 5? Yeah, Scream 5. And they were talking about sophisticated horror movies, like Hereditary and The Babadook and stuff like that. And I've seen those movies, and they're fun movies. I mean, I like those movies. But the big problem is with those movies, they're thinking movies. They're sophisticated horror. So you got to think. You got to catch the little hints that get dropped, or you miss the whole thing. That's not this movie. This movie is just straight up kind of schlocky, gore fest. It's fun, splash of color, and I do think that when you go back and critics now are looking back at it going, okay, we like this. They may not have liked it back then, but we like it now. Like I said, a lot of it was probably due to controversy, stuff, coming out around the film, and that can go either way. They can give you bad publicity or give you good publicity, But I guess overall they kind of get past that and they go, okay, so we're actually looking at the meat and potatoes of this film, and it's a good movie. And of course, it's spawned, stuff that's still coming out today, and so I do think it is well worth what it's getting rated, and I think it only gets better. So
I do too, and we're kind of randomly off topic. We started doing the tomato meter and stuff either partway, I think it was either halfway through Nightmare on Elm Street or after Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't remember off the top of my head when we actually started it. But as of right now, A Nightmare on Elm Street for us, Jason, holds the highest tomato meter rating.
What's that?
Tomato meter. Let me just double check something really quick. Nope. I take that back. Nightmare on Elm Street was a 95%.
That was critic?
That was the critics for A Nightmare on Elm Street.
95.
Slacks has a 96 on the tomato meter from critics.
Are you kidding me right now?
Slacks holds the record so far for the highest tomato meter rating of any movie we've talked about on the podcast.
Okay. Do you hear that, Dead by Daylight people? I want the pair of pants to be the next killer. That's what I want.
Oh, God, that would be great. By the way,
put him to the side. I don't need him.
By the way, just so everybody knows, Nicolas Cage is out in Dead by Daylight, and he's fun.
No one cares, Jeremy.
I care.
I got on there the other night. To play a quick game, and I was the killer because they were putting the extra bonus blood points into that. I'm playing by myself anyway, but I got on there. Of course, the first 4 that I have to go against are all Nicolas Cages. They're all wearing like goofy little jackets and everything. Like this.
They all look like that Spider-Man meme.
Oh, pointing at each other. They're all laying down in bushes somewhere. I'm just like, I hate this game.
Well, everybody, that's all the time we have for tonight. We will see y'all next week for Evil Dead 2. It's going to be a fun time. Sam, thank you for joining us for this little fun charade of Evil Dead. Hopefully we can get you on here soon again. If you had to pick your next movie, what would it be?
I don't know. There's so many of them. So many.
Off the catching them off guard, Jeremy.
Trying to decide one off of the top of my head is probably impossible.
Because I think it's my solo movie after this series.
Yeah, to be your solo, because I Sell the Dead was mine. But for all you fans out there, just letting you know, next week, I already said we're doing Evil Dead 2, but that is actually the Wednesday right after our 1-year anniversary.
Ooh.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. That next Tuesday is
This is our 52nd episode.
52nd episode. So we will technically be celebrating our 1-year anniversary with Evil Dead 2, which I think is
What a way to
go.
celebrate it.
Yeah, because that is like I said, it's by far my favorite movie of the franchise so far. I don't think the new ones are going to beat it, but it is my favorite out of the entire I guess I would say Ash Williams series. And actually it was pure luck, you know. I had a couple movies in mind that I wanted to do for the series that we're running, and I just went, Evil Dead. And then Jeremy was like, hey, you know our 1 year's coming up, right? It's on this day. And I'm like, ooh, and that's Evil Dead 2. So, look. That's our Ash Williams luck right there. But, yeah, so that's what we're going to be doing next week.
Well, everybody, we'll see y'all next week. Same time. Same campfire.
Same campfire by that same nasty little moldy cabin.
And we'll be reading from the Book of the Dead. See y'all next week.
Next week. Later.
Bye.
I'm all right.
I don't think so.
There's something out there. It lives out in those woods. In the dark. Something that's come back from the dead. Groovy.
Hello, lover.
Son of a...
I'll swallow your soul. I'll swallow your soul.
Swallow this.